Just a friendly reminder that these are conversations intended for adults, and there is the potential from time to time for the conversation to lean into adult subject matter or adult language. Hey, this is Danielle Ireland with Season 3 of Don't Cut Your Own Bangs. Thank you so much for joining us on the second part of my interview with Lindsay Boccardo. I have loved every delectable morsel of this. I know you have as well, and that's why you're ready to jump into the second half. If you have caught us by some mistake out of order, you are about to listen to the second half of the conversation. Some of the jokes may not make sense, so press pause and hop on over to the first half if you haven't already. Otherwise, sit back, relax, and enjoy more of Lindsay Boccardo. So I'm curious how on like your journey, which I know we don't have to go all the way back to the very, very, very beginning.
I was born on October.
It was a cool,
it was
crisp
4 in the morning.
Your journey let's stick to the professional journey.
Sure.
Because I know that they blend, right? Your personal experiences happened while you were also like creating your career. When you were considering launching into this coaching career, what gave you pause? And then what gave you the courage, gave you that permission to really launch into it and leap into it full bore?
Okay, what gave me pause was that when I went to coaching school, I was the youngest person. Probably by like at least a decade, maybe 2. So I walked in the room and I was like, I feel awkward. And nothing's even happening yet. And y'all look more important than me. So
I'm going to riff off of this and go right into, this was the opposite. It was the exact opposite for me when I went to grad school.
You were the oldest?
I was in let's say the top 4%.
Oh, boy.
I was like,
you're an old lady.
Back in my day.
We didn't have iPhones
we drank the Sunkiss and then went to PacSun to do some shopping after Spencer's getting crazy gifts. Like, none of those.
MTV, ever heard of it? Because basically it was my
Carson
life.
Daly ruled. God, he ruled my teens. Mm-hmm. I'm like, tell me what's popular, Carson. But I was one of the oldest people in my program, and I felt so alienated, not more experienced, not more sage or wise, but I just felt other.
Oh, absolutely.
Continue.
So you look around, and I think this happens to everybody. I feel like it's a phenomenon. I am not like anybody in this room, so I don't belong. And usually people either play big or play small, and that's they'll like overshoot a bit, maybe a little bit too much, or they'll hide, right? So that's what we both have experienced.
Yeah.
So I decided, I was like, dude, I know I'm supposed to learn these skills, and I can't help that I'm the youngest person in the room. And so I took everything I learned and thought like, okay, who needs service? So part of what's so cool about coaching and any service-based business, but certainly coaching, is like, who needs connection and support that makes sense given my whole background? So my background is in being a musician and then training young musicians. So I was like, I should train young employees. That makes perfect sense. I was 27, 28 at the time. And so that's how I built my business. Originally was I just built a workbook based on everything I knew about career development and as a coach, how to help somebody move through the decisions that we all have to make about our career and our passion and our life mission. And I thought, I'm just going to bring this to the youngest generation. And so that's what I did. And it's so funny because I think this is like cliche, but the thing that you feel like an outlier with, that you feel kind of awkward with, is the thing
that makes you special.
That makes it work for you.
Yeah.
And I had so many times where people where I did feel like I'm not like everybody else. Yep. And even the thing of being young has made it so easy for me to do speaking gigs, because they'll be like, oh, millennial wants to talk about millennials. That makes more sense than having a 60-year-old man speak about millennials, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I've won speaking gigs over competitors because of that. And so I'm like, okay, there's something to this. If I follow this very small thread of who I really am and I can't even help, and then what I love talking about and what I love learning about, I will find a way. And I think that watching that actually work for me developed a lot of faith.
So I heard you say that what gave you pause was the feeling other.
Oh my God.
And
you get it.
Oh God. What was it that helped you get permission? Was it that you just simply identified like, oh, I'm young and I want to speak to young people. There's a need. Or was it identifying the need that gave you permission?
Actually, I think for me, it was another person.
Yeah.
So my friend John was in coaching school with me at the time. He was a VP of a bank. He's a genius. I just have so much respect for him. And he was going to coaching school, even though he had his master's degree and he had done a ton of therapy in his life. He used to work in prisons and help prisoners, like intense situations. There's a VP of a bank. I just had so much respect for him. And he was like, dude, you can do this. You're meant to do this. And my trainer too, Barb, she was like, you can do this. You are meant to do this. You're a fish to water. And so I think a lot of times we adopt other people's confidence when, I think that's what happens between us, when you're like, I don't know. And I'm like, dude, that's fear.
That's
literally, you're good to go.
You adopt other people's confidence.
About you.
I love that.
So the first time I did a huge speaking gig, it was for 5,000 people in like a basketball arena. If you ever speak in a building that big, the echo, you're hearing your voice come back to you like 2 seconds later. It's weird. And I remember my boss at the time was like, you're going to do this. And I started crying. And I was like, I guess same thing. I'm going to adopt what you see in me. I'm going to adopt your confidence in me. And we're just going to go with that. And like, I'm willing to fly a little blind for a minute. So I think that's such a huge part of like breaking out of maybe childhood trauma or just childhood experiences or self-beliefs is like somebody else connecting with you, believing in you and speaking that over you. That's so my journey. That's what I want to give to other people.
Maybe even like your purpose, like connecting with a purpose that felt bigger than you also helped you push past that feeling small.
Yeah. And I think people and purpose, having those two pieces, you're like, if I don't do this, I'll regret it. And we all have those moments where we like kind of bite the bullet.
Yeah.
And just do it.
I think that for me, one of the things that's, I don't know, I've always had a desire to serve. Ultimately known that like the impact I want to make on the world is bigger than what I want to give myself. And yet I think what's helped me push past that fear or maybe that hesitation, procrastination is when I personalize why I'm doing it. Like, how is this truly serving me? And letting, while maybe a secondary outcome or hope is that I can make an impact on people beyond me. If it truly fills me up and it truly, I don't know, drives me, sparks, inspires, that really fuels my fire to share that more, which again, I think goes back to the idea of joy in sharing versus bragging, which is
totally
the sharing of joy amplifies joy. So the things that bring me joy and light me up inside, I'm like, oh, I got to tell more people about this. Like, oh my God, it's like when people talk about selling secrets, I'm like, F secrets. I don't give a shit about secrets. Keep your secrets. Like, tell me a story. I don't want to hear your secrets because secrets feel like gossip and ick. I think what's really helped me push past particularly creative pursuits. And I think that my creative pursuits and professional pursuits probably mirror one another. And I think you can definitely relate to that. But if I go out with the intention of serving a big purpose, I can kind of crumble under the weight of the impact that I hope to make. Versus if I'm like, this serves me. This work, whether people love it or hate it, I know that this serves me. And in service of myself and sharing that, I feel like that helps me get out of my own way a little bit. And I don't know if that makes sense or you can relate to it.
Is it like you're not looking for a response from people, you're just doing what feels right to you?
So there's no question that validation is empowering and comforting. Like when I feel alone and someone's like, oh God, I get it. I'm like, oh, good. Okay. It's not just me. It's not just me. But I think when I'm looking for or seeking that validation before I even begin, when I'm looking for that power outside of me before I start, that feels like a weakened position as opposed to, I'm going to do this thing and I'm scared to do this thing. I don't know how this thing's going to turn out, but I think I really want to do this thing. And someone's like, you know what? Go get it. I'm like, yeah. It's like I have to get the ball rolling myself in a way. So I almost wonder if it's a timing thing because there's no question that someone cheering you on and having your back, coaching you, championing you. There's no question that that's empowering and helpful. When I have sat back too long and waited too long to start, it's because I'm waiting for someone to hand me a permission slip and say that I'm worthy.
Or that you've like done enough to be able to say something about this.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I think that's really true. I think that that's the thing is like at the end of the day, like no one is going to hand you a permission slip.
Nope.
And we know that from just being in business. So it's like you can either jump in and play the game or you can like stand on the side. At some point, even your own self-respect rests on you giving yourself permission, especially as an adult.
I like that. Your own self-respect rests on you giving yourself permission. That's good.
Not like waiting.
Yes.
So whenever I'm like, I'm kind of waiting, I'm like, why don't I'm an adult. I can supply that for myself. Yeah. I'm not waiting for somebody else to.
Yeah.
I don't even need somebody else to understand me. I can just say it or do it or whatever it is. So yeah, I think that's really interesting to think about. And I would say most people that I meet are waiting for a permission slip.
Yep.
We are waiting to feel
for the perfect moment.
Like somebody's going to accept us before we even try.
Which is the opposite of what vulnerability is.
Totally.
And stepping into anything, you're going to risk uncertainty. Speaking of uncertainty, I'm curious, given that the title of this podcast is Don't Cut Your Own Bangs, I'm curious if you feel comfortable sharing with me and anyone who could be listening.
People and 10,000 people.
What would you like to share?
Okay.
A Don't Cut Your Own Bang moment.
I have a story that I just came back to. You ever have like childhood stories that come back to you that you kind of forgot about? So it's one of those. So we were doing orienteering in gym class. If you don't know what orienteering is, it's hell. It's before smartphones. So and before maps. And so you literally had to get a compass and figure out where true north was and then walk like a certain amount of paces to get somewhere. And for my brain, you got to know that like I am lost. I know even as a 6th grader, I knew like this is not going to work for me. I can do dodgeball all day. I will throw that kickball at your face mercilessly.
Yep.
But you want me to figure out how to go 30 paces north?
Like you can't tell, but I want to lick my finger and be like, which direction is the wind blowing?
No.
Oh, there it is. Yep.
Yeah. And I wish I could have been like, I wish I would have known that we'd have iPhones as adults because I felt, stressed about it. But actually, to be honest, I remember in gym class, I was like, dude, I'm checking out of this experience. I don't care. It's lame. And it's not a sport. I don't know what we're doing right now, but it's boring. And I don't know why I had to change into gym clothes to walk around in a field with a compass in my hand. So Mr. Buckholz, one day I was in the lunch line and I knew I had phoned it in. I knew I was like not trying. And like consciously as a 6th grader being like, dude, I'm not even going to try. This is lame. He pulls me into his office and he's like, I want to talk to you. I'm like, oh, okay. That's weird. You're a gym teacher. Please. You have very short athletic shorts on. This is awkward for me.
Please don't sit.
Please don't sit down. I will reach maturity faster than I wanted to. So he's like, I've noticed that you haven't been trying in orienteering and I need you to know that I can see that and that you're not being a leader right now. Mm-hmm. And I remember like feeling really shamey about it. Yeah. And I got back in the lunch line. I was like ordering a grilled cheese that day. I was like, I'll just have a grilled cheese and the side of fruit. And, and I remember feeling so bad about it. And I wish I could go back. That's not like a cut your own bangs. Like a lot of times you talk about cut your own bangs. Like I took charge, but I did the opposite. I just got passive and didn't care. And then I let somebody else like lay this value on me that I always had to lead and that I always had to be excited and like engage everybody. And that's just too much pressure. And so I remember now when I look back, if I could go meet little Lindsay in the lunch, I'd be like, Lindsay, in 12 years, there will be iPhones.
Yep. Cars will have GPSs in them and you'll never need to worry about directions again.
This is ridiculous. Yep. You're good to go. You are lovable. Yep. You're fine. You don't have to be a leader all the time. And so it was almost like the opposite of taking a risk was like, sometimes the risk is just being like, this is not me and I don't care. And I'm going to own that. And if you don't like it, Mr. Buckholz, gym teacher, Clem South Elementary School, I'm not going to care so much. And so I think a big part of that for me was just getting over like, you have a perception of me, you need me to be a certain way. I'm probably not going to show up that way all the time. Yeah.
Well, I can see how that would also like lean right into what are the origins of perfection and where does that come from?
100%. Like all of a sudden I check out a little bit and you're on my ass as a 6th grader about orienteering in gym class. Total perfectionism and the procrastination piece. I was just on the phone today with my business partner, Jenny, and I was like, I don't want to do this thing because I think I need 6 more months. And she was like, you don't need 6 more months. You're procrastinating. Just get on the ball and do it. Yeah. Like you're just afraid to do the thing that you need to do. Yep. Because you don't want people to criticize you.
Well, oh God. So I can relate. I remember being in 5th grade. The first male teacher I'd ever had, I'm like, whoa, he's like my dad. He plays games with us. I remember really admiring him. And Mr. Hirschberger pulled me aside and he said, Danielle, you got to be on this test. And he pointed out another student.
You told me about this. Yes. This is so sad.
He pointed out another student. He was like, see so-and-so, and I won't say their name because we're still probably friends on Facebook, so I'm not going to, but he pointed at
Melissa.
But he pointed at that student and was like, so-and-so, see, they're naturally an A student. You are naturally a B student and you got to be on this test. And what that what that says to me is you weren't really applying yourself because what I know was, and here's the hard part is in hindsight, I can look back and think he thought he was encouraging me. Just like I'm
He has
sure
a grown up. Mr. Buckles totally thought he was encouraging me.
he probably thought like Lindsay's a natural leader, and
this will speak life into her.
And she is just, drifting back and not applying herself to her fullest potential. And I need to inspire her to try. And I'm sure Mr. Hirschberger had those intentions. I'm sure he was like, Danielle phoned in the B and didn't really apply herself. I need to push her to give her that extra shove to really get to excellence. Oh,
and
God.
It crushed you.
Well, the narrative became, I'm a B student. I'm almost good enough, but just not quite. Just not quite. And I have to work harder than everyone else to get there. I know that wasn't his intention. This isn't about his intention in any way, because I'm sure his intentions were good, but it's a hard thing to overcome.
It is, even as a kid.
Yeah.
It doesn't leave you.
No. So Lindsay, I want to know, what's the best advice you've ever been given?
Oh, this is good.
Thank you.
I think the best, thank you. I rolled that question myself. I think the best advice I've ever been given changes as I evolve. So I would say recently, something that I'm learning from a dear friend is like, I've had a lot of hard conversations lately, just in my life, about life, and with people that I love. And the best advice that she gave me was reflect back to people how they're showing up for you. But just sharing things with a friend and then saying, man, you look really upset with me. You look like you don't want to be around me, because that piece, that the advice piece is this: when you are vulnerable, you're going to look out into the world and feel maybe attacked or small or not loved. And just say that to the people that really love you. Like, hey, I feel like you don't really love me right now, or you don't feel connected to me. It takes a lot of courage to reflect back to somebody what they look like and how they're affecting you. Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, the most important thing is connection. So I think that's something I've really been working on, is if the most important thing is connection, then anytime I'm not feeling connected to somebody, I'm going to tell them that. And I'm going to figure out what it takes to get back to there. And what assumptions am I making? So I do that like with what assumptions am I making? So like my business partner, Jenny, we talk about that. My dear friends, you and I have had that conversation before. Like, when this thing happened, this is what I assumed. What happened on your end? And honestly, how many times is it like,
the assumption is never what you think.
They're not at all. It's never reality.
Well, and I think that's what's so great about that advice of reflecting back what the other person is showing you.
Yeah.
Because when you reflect that back, that's an opportunity for them to be like, oh, wow, is that what my face was showing? Because that wasn't actually like that offers a point of clarity. Yeah. Either validation, you're exactly right. Let me reflect on that. Let me think on that a little bit more. Or, wow, I'm glad you said something, or I'm glad you clarified, because that wasn't where I was coming from at all.
100%.
Yeah.
So much of the quality of our life is based on our relationships. Yeah. And if we don't feel connected to people or safe or loved, Brene Brown's Everything talks about this, then life is just going to suck. That's the only way to say it. Yeah. So just like we talk about in coaching school, what do we say? If you're sensing it, just blurt it out. It's better to blurt it out and be like, this is what I think. This is what I think you're thinking of me right now. And let somebody edit you, know?
Let someone edit you. Well, and that's vulnerable in and of itself. Reality. Yeah, because you have to say it out loud in order for someone to edit it. Yeah. Ooh, that's good.
Like if I said to you, I just feel like you don't really like me right now, that gives you a huge chance to say, yeah, I don't. I'm pissed at you. Or,
right.
Or I do. Wow, I need to work on, my face. One of the reasons I wear glasses now is because...
You want to hide your face?
I want to hide my face. No, because I would squint all the time. Yeah. So when you're squinting, you look pissed. So I was like, I don't want to look angry at everybody. I probably need glasses.
No, it's actually not that I'm mad at you. I just have a hard time seeing you, and I have a headache right now.
Literally, the lenses of my eyeballs are misshapen.
No, I love that. Reflect back what people are showing you.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
It's pretty wild to do. I've been doing it. I've been practicing it lately. It's wild because people don't expect you to do that. It's actually a function of motherhood to be a mirror for your kids. Like, oh, honey, you look sad. Or, honey, you look upset. What's going on? And so to do that as adults, most of us didn't get that in childhood. So to do it as adults is like, brings a ton of self-awareness and connection because you get a chance to say what you really think.
Well, Lindsay, I feel connected to you.
I feel so connected. We are making a lot of eye contact.
And I don't know about our listeners, but I think that everyone else feels really connected to you too. And I'm going to be sure to share all the ways that people can connect with you at the end of this episode.
That's awesome.
So please stay tuned for a couple more seconds because you're going to want to get to know more about Lindsay. You're going to want to follow her, subscribe. You're going to want to visit her.
Do things.
You're going to do all the things with Lindsay.
Come to the weekend.
Just come to the weekend, hang out with her, send her an email like I did and be like, be my friend. I'm sure she'll love it.
It'll work.
So, it'll be fine.
Clearly.
Or be at Panera and wait for her to show because she'll be there.
With a Greek salad in tow.
But thank you for sharing an hour of your time with me.
Oh my gosh. Anytime. You're the best.
Thanks so much for completing an episode in season 3 of Don't Cut Your Own Bangs. I appreciate you so much. And speaking of appreciation, I think it's a little unfair that I feel like I've been doing most of the talking and I want to hear from you. So if you have a second or two, if you could leave a comment either on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, however you're listening, you're always welcome to shoot me a message through Danielle at DanielleIreland.com. There are lots of creative ways you can connect with me there. Let me know your thoughts. It really does make me better. Constructive feedback, or even just takeaways, what you find valuable, what you want more of, let me hear from you. And of course, who doesn't love the occasional compliment? If something touches you, you have no idea how much that just fills my heart with joy, or maybe you do. Either way, please let me hear from you. Hope you continue having an awesome day, and thanks for continuing to listen.